Alright, real talk here. If you're someone who likes to play video games like me, then I'm pretty sure you know how much of a fun hobby it could be. But then again, if you're also someone who has to work a 9 to 5 every day just to keep your electric bill and money, keep that shit from turning off, then you know that playing video games today can be very expensive. Especially now when we're considering that we're living in a time where video games just don't seem like what they once was. Overpriced, unfinished, and just sometimes don't even feel like they're worth the promise. Because half of these games nowadays are so overpriced and look so unfinished that they pretty much have the graphical powder like they can run on PS3. You're probably saying, well, Kazio, games are obviously going to cost a lot more to play because they're a lot more expensive to make, costing them somewhere up to hundreds of millions of dollars. And that is true because, let's be real here, the technology to make these games are not cheap. But I don't think that goes to justify half of these decisions most of these companies make when it comes to how much they want to charge for their games. Like nowadays, you're more bound to find microtransactions and expansion content inside of a $70 full price game than most likely anything else. And one big example of an overpriced game was, of course, Concord. Now, yes, I know, talking about Concord is kind of like beating a dead horse at this point, but it's really just worth the example because Concord is there for a reason. This game literally cost almost damn near $500 million to make. The game was basically Sony's attempt into the live service market, which is kind of crazy when you consider that they literally was charging $40 for this game. Yes, that's no joke, $40 fucking dollars for a live service game. I think Sony tend to forget what market they was jumping into, like, yes, the live server market, where almost every competitor is either free, cheaper to make, it's just sometimes ultimately even better. If Sony really couldn't see the fact that there was really barely any hype for this game, it will only get even worse when the game actually launched because it barely got any players and literally died literally 2 weeks after its launch, which is absolutely crazy. Now, listen, I don't know, man. Personally, if you was to ask me, $500 million is way too expensive for a live service game, and I mean hella expensive. If you was going to spend that much money on it in a game, you could have at least realized where you were going. Like, many live service games, yes, are expensive, but they do not cost anywhere around like almost that much money to develop. Like 500 million, I don't know, that really seems just like a lot of money just for a video game, especially in the live service market. Like, I don't know if Sony realizes, but almost all the other alternatives were free to play, didn't even cost as much as Concord's budget to make. So I really thought if Sony just probably should have switched it around and maybe turn it into like a single player shooter, like, I don't know, Pineland Borderlands or something. Speaking of Borderlands, holy shit, this game used to have me up all night during the summer of 2013. I remember getting this game for my birthday, and it was like really much of a heavy Call of Duty guy by this point. I was playing a lot of Black Ops 2, a lot of Modern Warfare, I was trying to get into the good games by then. But this game definitely felt like a huge refresher, especially for those who were just really definitely infatuated into the Call of Duty market. Borderlands both 1 and 2 was definitely something special when it came to these type of games. The simple cartoony art style along with the looter shooter experience definitely got me very interested into these type of games growing up, and it's kind of the reason why I started to get a little bit interested into the Mad Max franchise. Now, when the third game came out in 2020, I didn't really have as much fun as I did when I was playing the second one, but that's probably because of the nostalgia right there. But it indeed was a pretty good sequel, and it definitely did help me keep me occupied during the whole quarantine thing back when the world was going through that totally real pandemic, by the way. Now, only a couple months ago, Borderlands 4 will officially get released, and now, naturally, while I would buy this game and play it for the sake of my childhood, I came to realize something. This game was literally $70, and this was for the standard edition. Now, at that point, you might as well be telling me to cough over $2 grand, because for me, $70 is basically special edition games, not for the standard. That's usually like $40 to $50 to $60 in my opinion. So I pretty much sat and did the ordinary thing, and I waited for people to play the game and wait for the reviews to come in. And when they did, they weren't really, well, great to say the least. And one of the biggest and main concerns for the game was the fact that it ran like absolute dog shit on PCs, which is kind of really my main way of playing these games. And one of the main reasons why this was happening was actually due to the game engine that this was made on. Now, many people figured it out, but this was actually built on something known as Unreal Engine 5. And I'm here to tell you that I've actually worked with this engine plenty of times, and it is a very interesting engine to work with. Unless you're like a pro who knows what they're doing, then you're definitely going to have a hard time trying to at least understand, at least make a pretty playable game from my experience. UE5 is kind of like the Windows 11 of gaming engines, and this is because it's packed to the brim with so many resource-eating features like lumen lighting, etc., that if you're trying to make a game that at least playable for mid-tier PCs, unless you disable many of these features and do a lot of optimizations like LOD adding, you're going to have a very hard to run game. My suggestion to developers who are probably having a hard time using this engine is to probably just use older versions like 4.6 or lower, because those were definitely built for the more mid-tier PCs, while UE5, at least in my opinion, is definitely the kind of engine that's just built for the top or high-tier computers. Which, speaking of that, kind of brings me to what the CEO of Borderlands, Sam Pitchford, kind of said in response to all of this. Quote unquote, every PC gamer must accept the reality of the relationship between their hardware and what their software is doing. end quote. So basically, what he's saying in a nutshell is,
read the name of price and get the fuck over it.
let's not even get into the fact that literally the cost of upgrading your GPU is literally donating like either running your kidneys or organs at this point. Which kind of brings me into my next topic, which I honestly think is really important because it kind of really talks about the future of gaming in general. This is of course being AI. Now, this is going to be a little bit more of a rant, but if you're someone who's just really against AI or you're an average gamer too, then you would understand why I'm coming from. Now, it's no doubt that AI has been this really big nuisance that has just been around for a couple years now, and it's honestly shown to not really have any positive effects on society. I mean, you have people going into whole entire murder-suicide plots based off of delusions fueled by ChatGPT to some of the most misinformation videos I could possibly see generated by fucking Sora. These tools literally provide no benefit to society whatsoever, and when you honestly look at the more problems they cause, like honestly, don't even get me started with the whole Grok situation that's been going on recently, and you start to see that this is the reason why RAM prices, which is literally the most key important component to a computer, is gone up very high. And even if you're someone who's not even into computers or even PC gaming, don't think this doesn't even affect you, because this may come to surprise you, but RAM is almost a crucial piece of every electronic device out there, from your iPhones to your smart TVs to even your beloved game consoles. They all utilize RAM that these AI tech goofies are fighting for, by the way. And it's not just RAM prices neither, because with all these massive AI data centers that are literally being built all around the country, a lot of residents that are near these centers are experiencing a lot of rises to their electrical bills and just a lot of costly things that just shouldn't even be happening because of these guys. And what's even more insane is how literally AAA gaming studios are trying to normalize AI for their game creations. One biggest example is Black Ops 7, and how they were literally called out for using AI art for their calling cards. This was literally going viral online, and to be honest with you, this literally pissed me off because it was like these companies are actively contributing to the problem of high RAM and literally all these rises in electrical bills. And then again, they get upset when people just don't want to spend $70 on their slop, because that's all it is. It's just slop consistent of AI. Because at the end of the day, all this does is just plagiarizes other people's works and really neglect the true value that comes with like hiring real talent to work on your game. Now, I do think it's an important thing to kind of mention the difference between regular AI and Gen AI. Regular AI is something that's kind of been in games since day one. It's kind of used to create NPC logics and character system. It's kind of usually like how games like The Sims and GTA 4 usually have their logic built in. Gen AI is the previous mentioned example with Black Ops 7. And well, let's talk about a more recent example with the new Postal game that was literally announced and canceled the same day because people literally found out this shit was made with AI. And what makes it crazy is how many of these game executives try to like play down the fact that these are AI and literally just lie to our faces. Listen, newsflash to these guys, the players aren't stupid. Half of the times, we're probably smarter than these executives themselves because these executives just don't know real games or real art. Now, to kind of end this off with some positivity, there has been some pushback against these data centers, as a lot of people are seeing the negative effects that these things are having onto their environment and are actually choosing to fight the good fight, and I encourage them to continue to do it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is AAA fatigue, as a lot of people are now starting to see it and it's now starting to become more and more prevalent. And basically, what I mean by this is that players are pretty much done with all the AAA bullcrap that's in games these days. All the overpromises, the unpolished games, and just the ever-increasing price tag that just seems to be in these companies' head. Which is why you see a lot of indie games like Schedule 1 and what's that thing? Silk Song. I was about to say Silk Road. I don't know why. But you see these games take off and just start to do a lot more better and praise more than these AAA titles. Not only that, but you see a lot more people revert back to more older games. Like me personally, I started playing a lot more Black Ops 3 and just a lot more older titles that came out before the PS5. Because to be fair, they run fairly well on my PC, and I just don't think modern day AAA games, especially with all their graphical fidelity, is really worth it. Now, there used to be a time that, graphics were sometimes, at least in my opinion, better than gameplay. But, as I got older, I started to realize that, yeah, gameplay is definitely better than graphics, especially when you realize how much of a toll the graphics can have on your system. But to be fair, that's just really kind of the video I wanted to make talking about games. Back into making content again, it's been a while, Real life, it gets crazy sometimes, especially when you gotta handle a lot of, your personal life and you're on your own for the first time, so it gets hard. So I want to get back into the content again, so I hope most of y'all still there. Definitely be back making more videos, and peace out.